Welcome back to Let's Analyze Elsword Revamped. There's a link in the description if you'd like to read my fanfiction of Elsword before watching further. I really wanted to get below 5,000 words for this chapter, but there's just so much necessary content. You can already tell from the video length that I have a lot to say. So far, this is my favorite chapter in the Elder story arc, and it's competing against my overall favorite, Chapter 2. We're back to Elsword's perspective, starting off right where Chapter 10 finished. The yellow something that Reyna has by her right ear is the yellow communication device Rose made. If you remember from Chapter 10, Reyna mentioned how Aisha was just as bad as Los Cadets, and right after that, Elsword re-entered the scene, which is why he knows about that part of the conversation and references it out of concern in this chapter. The clouds of sand from that chapter also make a return, but has become much fiercer as time passed. I wanted the issue of not having the Elstones around be a recurring instance, which is why I put this much emphasis on the sandstorm. It's a reminder that although everyone has their own reasons of pursuing the Elstone, there's an overall problem that has to be addressed by retrieving it. When Elsword resonates with the L inside his body, radiating that red light and gaining temporary power, it's him using awakening mode. I made it more drawn out compared to how subtle Reyna and Aisha used their awakening mode in previous chapters, because Elsword is still kinda new to manipulating L with skills, such as Triple Geyser, Unlimited Blade, and Flame Geyser. So it should be no surprise that using awakening mode, which is manipulating the L within to strengthen oneself, is a rare occurrence for him. I know in the game, Elsword has to use awakening mode in the tutorial boss fight, but lore-wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense that he's able to do that right away. I wanted this flashback to what Aisha said in Chapter 7, right after Ciel says their sparring is a waste of energy, to emphasize how much Elsword doesn't think fighting is a waste. The more training he gets from battle, the stronger he'll be for getting Alice's back. The very detailed description of Unlimited Blade is to show two things. One is how slow Elsword is from being tired, since Ciel can just step away from his blade. The second is how this is actually the old version of Unlimited Blade before the skill revamp of 2015, when the attack was much lower than it is now. I understand from a gameplay perspective, faster skills are great to increase your damage per second rate, but lore-wise, again, this doesn't make sense. Why should he swing so quickly compared to his Mega Slash skill, or some of his later skills in other job paths for that matter? It would make more sense to have his base job skills slow, and as he progresses in other jobs, he would become faster because he's more trained. Did you know Ciel was actually referencing the character creator voice line? When selecting Elsword, he says near the end, "I pack a mean punch." Elsword used a skill called Block, and yes, that's actually a skill he previously had in his base job before it was moved to Lord Knight. The difference with this skill compared to how he blocked the rocks from Forus and the Forest Ruins dungeon is that he focused the L into his sword and did a rising swing immediately after the block happened. Aisha never commented about Elsword manipulating L when he blocked for her in Chapter 7. Since we know Reyna's eyes see better than human eyes in the dark, we can infer that she spied on Ciel and Elsword sparring where they couldn't see her. He might be wondering why she's so mad at Ciel even though he was the only one that got hurt from sparring, but that's because of her overprotectiveness. There was the potential that Ciel could have hurt Elsword, which is why she scolded Ciel. I redesigned Echo's store to be more industrial than how it is in the game, for reasons that will be clear in the next chapter. It's never mentioned in the game that alchemy is part of the technology that Debrians created, but I would like to believe that's true, and I also wanted an easy way of introducing Debrians. We shouldn't have to wait until Elrianode to find out what people call non-Elrians, right? What Elsword says here is a reference to Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Dunban, a character from that game, will say the exact same line. If you've been counting, Ciel has sighed 4 times from talking with Elsword. His opinion on the young lad isn't very high. I also redesigned Lenfad's smithery exterior because it should have a lot more personality and flair compared to how plain it's shown in the game. As head of the Velder Commerce Association, you'd expect Hoffman to have this luxurious mansion to live in, but on the contrary, he made sure to put more priority in how massive and hospitable Elder's Inn is for the people that gather for the grand market. It's showing how respectful, humble, and generous he is. This part might seem controversial. Someone from the L Search party is swapping teams. Although temporary, and the story is progressing through a new dungeon. The main reasons why I wanted to swap party members and want to continue doing so in future chapters is for different character interactions, unique combat scenarios, and opportunities to give lore. As you've seen in this one, we get a lot of bonding with CL and the rest of the Elsword party, excluding Reina of course. It's mostly between Elsword and CL, but there's a good amount with Aisha and CL too. He took care of wounds, gave a suitable reason to why she ought to train Elsword, and impressed her with his gun skills. These are good enough reasons to say he's a respectable team member in Aisha's eyes, especially compared to Elsword. We also got additional lore from CL and a good estimate of how well he fights without loose contract. In close quarters, you could say he's pretty bad if Elsword can wipe the floor with him, but from range, he's exceptionally proficient. Eventually, I want to have all the characters interact with each other at some point for good reasons, so everyone won't feel like a stranger. You might be wondering, what's the point in keeping them separated? Is it just so the spotlight won't be fought over between all of them since half the cast will be somewhere else in every chapter? That's partially true, but I'll let a certain character explain the rest of why in a later chapter. It may seem obvious, but what Elsword is trying to say is, it's so yummy. But since his mouth is full, that's why it sounds like, ish so yummy. Honey potions and banana milk are actually references to in-game consumables you previously got from Elder's quests. CL's little sister is originally from the webcomic Lou and CL's Tea Time. What's really weird is CL's promise to her in the 4th webcomic of that series. Instead of buying all the cookies from Lanox's bakeries, he wanted to bake all the cookies using his money. That would save money, but I thought the whole point of him getting rich was to buy what she wanted, and it's not guaranteed that he'll proficiently bake what she wants. We see just how bad of a cook he was starting out, so I think it would have made more sense to change his promise in the fanfiction to buying the cookies instead of buying all the ingredients to make them. If you remember from chapter 4, CL told Reina that his family was killed, so the other reason why CL changed his mind is because his little sister is dead. I gave a few details that imply the sudden grief he feels here without being too obvious for Elsword's perspective. Hoffman giving the key to CL is supposed to imply how he trusts CL more than Elsword and Aisha. You can think the reasons why are that he hired CL to kill Wally, CL's only adult in the Elsword party at the moment, or a combination of the two. I had Aisha's voice deepened just for this dialogue. She's supposed to be imitating what she believes to be Elsword's thoughts from the chapter's beginning, so her voice deepening is trying to mimic his deeper tone. If you saw in-game Elsword ask Aisha for help as early as Elder, you'd think he suddenly matured out of nowhere. That's not the case with this fanfiction's version of Elsword. We've seen how many times he's been wrecked, how many times Elsword implies or says he wants to get stronger, and how many times his weakness was mentioned. For those who forgot, he was defeated by Lowe's cadets William Foru and Elysis. Elsword implied or said he wanted to be stronger 3 times. His weakness of not fighting at a distance is mentioned 5 times. I would argue that Elsword's been through enough hardships to understand that he has to mature if he wants to be stronger. Reviving the dead happened twice in-game when Kayak resurrected the Bone Dragon boss in Bethma's secret dungeon, and when Scar almost brought the demon god to life. So what Aisha says here isn't far-fetched with needing a lot of magic. The underground waterway dungeon is supposed to be lit up by torches hanging on the wall, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would you light torches in the sewer when it would make the whole underground passage full of smoke and smell even worse than it normally does? Also, why would you want it to be illuminated all the time by these torches when no one regularly goes there? This is why I have the knights, who are trying to intercept the Elsword party, hold their own torches to light the way. There's no way they'd be able to hang their torches on the walls while doing so because of all the monsters they have to fight. You might be wondering why they're fighting all the monsters, because in the game, they don't fight each other. Have you ever thought that's stupid? Why aren't these sewer-dwelling monsters attacking anything out of the ordinary to get more food or protect their territory? From a gameplay perspective, you can just show them fighting each other at the beginning and then proceed as normal. Remember those giant bats I removed from Banthus' cave? They're here in this dungeon, which makes more sense for them. The Mickey enemies are featured to be more fierce and terrifying in the fanfiction because they're absolutely pathetic in the game. They look cutesy, do a small lunge at you, and that's it. I wanted every monster here to be intimidating enough to warrant Elsword being horrified. It'd seem out of place if I had them all except for the Mickeys to be scary. Aisha used her teleport skill to disappear and reappear. The first training lesson she says is actually a reference to what Richter Abend says in the game Tales of Symphonia: Dawn of the New World. This ebony bat is the Bat King mini-boss from Banthus' cave. The azure ball that Ciel shoots out, which turns into a spinning blade, is the active skill Hunting Prey. The biggest character development this dungeon has done is make Elsword more courageous, starting with his screaming charge. In the game, this dungeon really doesn't provide anything new outside of Banthus' Nazad arm, so I wanted to bring something unique to the dungeon. You might be wondering where the Black Forer is, but don't worry, it's moved to another location. I didn't want to describe Flame Geyser's environmental effect all that much compared to Triple Geyser from Chapter 7, because Elsword's focus should be directed more to Aisha than how the surroundings may change. Why did Banthus have to die so soon? Ciel explained why, but I will also say it's kind of dumb having the player fight Banthus for the third time, and he's not even that different, so there's very little point in showing a full battle with him. Something I found really odd was that Banthus still fights with his broadsword in the game when he has this laser shooting necklace. Should I use big laser necklace or big sword more? I think big sword sounds better. No, Banthus, that's dumb, and this is why I point out his lack of a broadsword here. It's to show how much confidence he has with the necklace compared to his former weapon. The biggest reason why I love this chapter almost as much as Chapter 2 is because of the unused potential the original game had at this point, and how it gets fully explored in the fanfiction. We got a bunch of Ciel relationships going before Lou's contract, learned how well he fights before that too, had some lore with him, and made the underground waterway unique. If you like this video or the fanfiction, show your support in the comments or with a review on fanfiction.net.